if you're signing a multi-deal year with an AI company right now, like you're kind of crazy. Just
Yeah.
all of these companies have come up out of nowhere in like the last 2 to 3 years. And in a couple of years, like there's going to be consolidations, there's going to be bankruptcies. If somebody told me that they were signing a 5 year deal, I would like kidnap them and try to prevent them from signing that piece of paper because it would be absolutely insane.
Hi, Jeremy. Thanks so much for joining me on the AI Diaries.
Yeah. Hey, Kate, how you doing?
I'm good. I am so lucky today to be sitting down with Jeremy Hyde, who is the Senior Director of Customer Service for Sun Country Airlines. I'm excited to talk to you for multiple reasons, but especially, right now the airline industry is having some challenges just in general, but your industry is so unique, and I have not had the opportunity to talk to anybody in the airlines on the AI Diaries. So I'm excited to dig in. I usually like to start with a question about, pattern recognition with technology. So across your career in CX, what patterns have you seen with how companies approach new tech? And are you seeing any of those same patterns or mistakes with AI?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think one of the mistakes that it's been happening for a long time and probably continues to happen with AI as well is people expecting magic that like you just turn a switch and it works. You bear no responsibility. The vendor just takes care of it. Everything's just going to work out of the box. It's going to fix everything. And I think with like every wave of technology, regardless of what it is, people are always like, "Whoa, what the heck? It didn't do what I thought it was going to do," and maybe fail to see their own responsibility in it. Mixed with, of course, there's often some overselling and under delivering on the flip side. You go to a demo and like, oh yeah, this like we can totally do that. It's perfect. And obviously the truth is never quite that way. But yeah, I think that the AI is the same way. It's the same sort of pattern that we've seen before. I think the capabilities are mostly, if not completely, real, but there's just a lot of noise in all of it and a lot of confusion and trying to figure out like, okay, the technology can do this thing, but what do I have to do? Am I ready for it? What's the
Right.
work required? What are the roles required? Is it going to work in my environment? All of those things. And so, yeah, like I said, I don't know that it's always the technology itself that's the barrier. Sometimes it's our readiness, our organization, and like, are we ready? Do we have all of our ducks in a row to take advantage of what the
Yeah.
technology is able to do?
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. And it's a great point because when technology doesn't do what it's supposed to do, your customers don't look at, well, what did the vendor do or what
Hmm.
vendor did they get? No, it's the brand, it's you. They don't know where it came from, what the technology is. All they know is that there is an error or something's not working right. So that's a great point. And I wonder, do vendors emphasize how much effort goes in on the client on your end, or do you kind of have to pull it out of them, or
Yeah, I think you have to kind of pull it out, and I just think things can be so different from organization to organization. Size, again, roles, technical aptitude, your ability to move things through an organization, like, and that's stuff that the vendor probably has to learn and pull out of you along the way. But no, I mean, oftentimes, and again in the sales conversations, the demos, especially early on, like, oh yeah, this is simple, it works great, we can totally do that thing that we've never heard of before. You just get all
right?
of the yeses.
Yeah. Yeah, we can customize that probably. Hopefully, we'll figure
Right,
it out.
exactly. Yeah, I think we could do that totally.
Yeah, I'll check on that, but pretty sure.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, so I mean that kind of answers the my second question about, you know, whether you've implemented it or people that are just evaluating it, understanding, when when do you realize, the vendor pitch and the reality of implementation were two different things and what happened. So, we kind of touched on that. Is there anything to add?
Yeah. I mean, as we kind of said already, like I think I've found that some of the stuff is harder than others probably make it out to sound. Even not just the vendors either, though. Other leaders and
Yeah.
organizations, like you know, you, this is like a social media thing. Like you're on Instagram or you're on whatever, and you don't see like the pictures of people's worst day or worst outfit or
Yeah.
hairdo. It's just like always like the perfect picture of their
Highlight
lives.
reel.
It's kind
Yeah.
of the same thing in business and like our colleagues on LinkedIn, right? It's like often they're not going, man, we really screwed this thing up. Like that's not what
Yeah.
you hear.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, like I said, it's not just the vendor, but just like a simple example of kind of the reality versus what you expected. When we implemented auto summary, auto summary just seems like such a slam dunk. Like, how could it not be? It
Yeah.
summarizes the conversation and you can just put it in the notes, or maybe it automatically goes
Yeah.
into the CRM or what have you. And you're going to immediately see this drop in after call work. And when we implemented auto summary, we saw zero impact whatsoever. Nothing happened. Our
Yeah.
ACW didn't change at all. And I was like, what, what the, how can that be? Like, I thought I was going to get
Yeah.
this like 30-second reduction in after call work, and we saw zero. And then you start asking yourself, it's like, is it the technology? Is it agent behavior? Is it how we rolled it out? Like, what is the deal? And I think for us, it's a combination of those things, probably.
Yeah.
We kind of just turned it on and just there wasn't a lot of upfront work, change management, et cetera, that went into it. It was just like, let's turn it on and see what happens. And nothing happened. We're like, what the heck is this
Yeah.
thing on? Um, but but yeah, I think what we found is one, there was some fine tuning we needed to do. There was some stuff like we would mishear or misunderstand a name, and people wouldn't
Yeah.
like that. And there was some like misgendering, like pronoun issues for whatever reason. But a lot of it, though, within our team was just kind of resistance to change. I can write my notes faster, better. I don't like the way that that
Right.
was written. I want to edit it because I think that this one small thing that we talked about is important enough into. And so recently we've just focused in more on like the change management and expectations and tried to change the way we're talking about it and kind of say like, hey, this is a gift. You don't have to write notes anymore.
Right.
And you don't have to read it. You don't have to edit. In fact, don't do that. We
Yeah.
want you to copy and paste and move on with your day.
Wow.
And by the way, we're reducing expectations around ACW. So that's kind of
Yeah.
going to be the biggest thing is like even the people that were using it, they would use it and then they would spend, 20, 30 seconds just kind of hanging out,
Yeah.
getting a breather because the goal and the
Yeah.
expectation was not changed. So I think that's just kind of an example of
Interesting.
you can maybe get there, but it's not
Yeah.
necessarily as simple as just flip the switch and all of a sudden you get the benefit.
Yeah, and everybody already just knows what to do.
Right.
Wow, and yeah, we had talked about last time the whole change management aspect, and you have really high tenured employees, so that makes sense.
Mhm.
But the way you reframed it for them is, I love that you said this is a gift. Not
Mhm.
everybody gets that. I mean, maybe eventually it'll just be a known thing, but also note taking is a skill in and of itself. So,
Right.
that varies the after call work when humans are doing it. So to be able to standardize that with the auto summary, that's that's great. And Jeremy, I wanted to ask you, so the you told me something that was interesting. So you pushed for, or you asked for exit clauses on all the AI contracts that you signed, which I always recommend. I mean, it's a new technology. We don't know how it's going to work. Having the ability to exit if it's not working is just, it's a way to give you peace of mind and also a really makes it much easier to sell internally. Has have you had anybody push back on that when you ask for it? And if they did, why do you think they did?
Yeah, I mean, I push for an exit clause in every contract. I've been doing
Yeah.
that for years.
Okay.
I've found myself in a couple of situations that I didn't love, and I was like, oh, I don't want to go through that again.
Yeah.
And you just never know. I mean, even really great relationships, sometimes they fall apart, right? And
Yeah.
so you want to, even if they didn't do anything that the contract says that you can term for, like you just want to be able to get
Yeah.
out of them. I've had one vendor that I can think of in the last handful of years that just refuses to budge on this. But I've noticed too that they're just kind of a pain in all aspects of contracting and renewal.
Yeah.
And it's pissing me off, to be honest with you. I'm like,
Yeah.
maybe I don't want to be partnered with you anymore because you're not even willing to consider. I'm like, tell me a time frame that I need to give you notice. Give me a
Yeah.
penalty amount. And they're like, no, we just
Yeah.
don't do it. And I was like, well, that's dumb. Like they could have
Yeah.
come back and said like 12 months, which would be ridiculous, right? But they could have
Yeah.
said something and they just said,
Yeah.
no, we don't do that. So I'm like, okay, well, you don't really care about this partnership enough to even consider something reasonable.
Yeah.
So what I did have them do is I forced them to do a 6 month renewal. And now I need to consider whether I want to continue working with these folks.
Yeah. Because that's a, like you said, that's showing zero flexibility and kind of a red flag. It's like, wait,
Right.
what do you think might happen that you don't want me to be able to exit from?
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Hey, but it is good to know it's not as common, like yes, there's going to be vendors here and there in every industry that push back on that, but it also it just reminds people who might be watching this like, hey, you can ask for that. I know I have heard that some AI vendors proactively will offer that as a
Mhm.
sign of like, hey, we're so confident that our tool is going to work for you that we'll have a 90-day out. Like if,
Mhm.
if within 90 days, if you're not comfortable or confident. Yeah. So that's a really
And
interesting point.
it does need to be reasonable though, right? It probably shouldn't be I can term at any moment, no penalty, no notice period, I can be done tomorrow. That's not
Yeah.
reasonable. I
Yeah.
mean, in the same way that like we have budgets and planning and all of that, so do they. They've got
Yeah.
employees to pay and mouths to feed and,
Yeah.
commitments and that sort of thing. So people should be reasonable, but again, it's some sort of exit, whether it's, hey, you want 2, 3 months notice? Okay. You want a $50,000 penalty? Okay. Like have a sense probably of what reasonable looks like. But to me, that's what's been most common, I think, is 2 or 3 months notice or a penalty that maybe is equal to, 2 or 3 months is something to that effect.
Yeah.
But the last thing I guess I would mention on this is like if the vendor's confident in what they do, their product, their service, then why do they need to trap you into a contract like you're not going to want to leave, right? If they're as
Yeah.
good as they say that they are,
Yeah.
you won't need that clause. And so I do think it's telling. I do think
Yeah.
it's a red flag. If they're just like, nope, our terms are our terms, then like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's like getting engaged to somebody after like a first date. It's like, wait, what? No.
Yeah,
That's
yeah, yeah.
let me get to know you a little bit first. Jeremy, you took a low commitment, high flexibility approach to AI contracts from the start. What, I mean, we kind of just touched on it, but is there anything else that made you approach it that way where some other leaders are just signing multi-year contracts right off the bat like they would any other technology?
Yeah. Well, like I said, the low risk contracts are really important to me. I'll be honest, in my opinion, if you're signing a multi-deal year with an AI company right now, like you're kind of crazy. Just
Yeah.
all of these companies have come up out of nowhere in like the last 2 to 3 years. And in a couple of years, like there's going to be consolidations, there's going to be bankruptcies. Like the environment and the market's going to change significantly. Like people that we're working with today are not going to exist in a year or two.
Yeah.
Um, and the technology is changing so fast that like you don't want to be locked into something. Like if somebody told me that they were signing a 5 year deal, I would like kidnap them and try to prevent them from signing that piece of paper because it would be absolutely insane. Like, and you don't have to. The competition is so high in the market, you do not need to sign. They'll
Yes.
do a proof of concept, a 6 month, a one, like
Yeah.
they'll give you a lot of things because the competition is so fierce. Until we see the market consolidate, and it'll change at some point, but right now,
Yeah.
that's not
Yeah.
where we're at. For me personally, though, at my size especially, like we're a smaller team. Um, my entire department's like 125 people. My
Yeah.
frontline agents are like 70 or something like that. At our size, ROI is not guaranteed. And you start thinking
Yeah,
about implementation fees and all that sort of thing, like the opportunity is not as big at our size. And
right.
so I just, I'm a bit of a skeptic to begin with, but then just understanding that like I'm not a 3,000, 10,000, 20,000 seat center where if you shave 7 seconds, it's millions of dollars. Like that's not where I'm at.
Right.
And so I just, it needs to be flexible. I need to be able to like back out with that in mind. Otherwise, I'm hesitant to even consider moving forward. And if it works, then great, we'll scale it. And if it
Yeah.
doesn't, though, I want to be able to shut it off and move on. But that's also how I positioned like some of our AI stuff internally at budget season was, hey, this is a test. We are not locked in. It's not a permanent decision. If we say it's not working, cool, we shut it off and that line item goes away. So,
Yeah.
to that point, like when you frame it that way internally, because I do think a lot of people struggle with getting funds and moving things through the
Yeah.
organization. If you can set it up that way, frame it that way, the only downside is just whatever you've already spent to learn, right? Hey, we tried it for 3 months or 6 months or 9 months,
Yeah.
whatever it is, didn't quite do what we thought, but we're not spending this money for the next 3 years. We can shut it
Yeah.
off now and no harm, no foul. We probably learned something and we'll be better the next time.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Because that's a big challenge is getting internal buy-in. I talked to
Mhm.
a gentleman at a healthcare org, and healthcare, of course, has so much red tape. But yeah, he is really very much wanting to try AI, but they're like, I don't know if we want to invest in this, or, we'll get to it at some point, but you don't know if it's going to help you or benefit you regardless of size until you try it. So at least then you can be like, hey, we tried it, it didn't work, or, we tried it, it worked, and now let's, figure out where else we can implement it.
I spoke with someone a while back and they tried something for about a year and they said the particular tool that they went with out of the gate was okay. It didn't quite get them where they wanted to be or where they expected, but they learned a ton and it set them up and prepared them. And they knew then what they needed from the next vendor. And so,
Yeah.
did they get the clear ROI? No. But then when they went into vendor number two, then all of a
Wow.
sudden they started to really get the benefits. And so, I do think that like sometimes there's this investment that is not going to immediately pay off. And again, in that case, vendor one, it didn't pay off in the hard dollars, but in the learnings and like the prep and being ready for the next thing, maybe it did.
Yeah, 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 exactly. I mean, it just goes back to people like dipping their toe in the water and testing and trying it.
Mhm.
I love that perspective because you almost learn what you don't want, or you learn what not to do next time, as far as mistakes or, best practices. And we kind of touched on this. So you have a very high tenure team, like I said before. You run lean. And we talked about agent assist being a tough tool to perfect. So when you tested it and when you ran it, agents basically ignored it. What would good, what would a good agent assist actually look like for a tenured team?
I've been having a lot of conversations on this topic. And it's interesting, like I'll post and write and talk about my perspective, but I learned so much from others during these conversations, which is a big reason. It's not like I'm posting because I'm the expert. Like, hey, this
Yeah.
didn't work. What worked for you?
Yeah.
So I've been learning a lot from others on this topic and refining my opinion. And it changes day by day, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure there's really a one size fits all answer, even for tenured teams. Like one person was talking to me, for example, about like more of like an e-commerce type environment, right? That's not the environment that I'm working in. But for them, they might have 30,000 SKUs and they're trying to answer a product
Yeah.
question on something that they hardly ever deal with or whatever. Well,
Wow.
elevating that stuff in real time. Hey, the customer said this thing. Okay, I'm going to pull up the products and now I'm
Yeah.
able to deliver that information. Like that seems like that would be super beneficial. That's not the world I live in though. And
Yeah.
so I think, in our environment, for tenured agents, which is like all of our agents. I don't know that we've fully cracked the code on like what good looks like. We tried a real-time agent assist that they ignored. Now I'll say the way that that was designed wasn't great to begin with.
Yeah.
And like in retrospect, I'm like, oh, I can see why that didn't work. Like we were managing content separately in the CCAS just for the agent assist. It wasn't hooked up to our knowledge base. So we were
Yeah.
limited to a small number of things that it could even attempt to help with. And it was really less agent assisty and more like the old like dumb bots where it was like keyword search, like, oh, you said
Yeah.
this word. Here is the block of
Yeah.
information that we produce for you, which
Yeah.
is just not
Yeah.
contextual. It's not super helpful. So they ignored that. What we're working on now is a knowledge-based chatbot. So it's a chatbot, chat GPT, whatever
Yeah.
type
Yeah.
UI. It's connected to our knowledge base. And the idea with that is that they can engage with it when they want or need to. And we're not
Yeah.
just like peppering them with things that they don't want or need. And so it's like that push versus pull kind of
Yeah.
conversation. I did have an interesting conversation with some folks today on this topic. And I explained all that. And they're like, yeah, that makes sense. But what about certain things where like you don't care if they think they need it or not? Compliance or regulatory. Hey, I think I
Yeah.
know all of the answers, but I'm wrong.
Yeah.
There might be so I'm also starting to kind of think about there might be times when I want to push information because like, hey, it's mandatory,
Yeah.
right? You need to look at this and read it. It's terms and
Yeah.
conditions or it's whatever. But then when it's more of that, like I know that I don't know the answer or I'm looking for help with verbiage or what have you, then they can go and they can seek that out themselves, but not taking a one size fit approach actually and looking for different solutions for different situations or use cases to try and deliver what's going to help the agent and help the customer.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're right. And I worded that poorly with, ignoring a system because if a system is not going to be helpful and it's going to further complicate a workflow, or if it's going to like, hey, sometimes this works, sometimes it doesn't. I've been doing it this way for a long time and it's worked. I'm just going to do it that way, especially for tenured agents that are like, come on, if this doesn't easily, seamlessly fit into my workflow, like
Mm-hmm.
why am I going to force myself to use it? But the push and pull analogy is really interesting, and it's crazy. Even since last time we talked, you hear these, you have these new conversations, and you hear
Mm-hmm.
these new insights, and what? Yeah, I love hearing that perspective, especially with the compliance.
Yeah, we've got so right now we've got like a small pilot group using our chatbot, and even that is super interesting. Like we think we're so smart, right? Us leaders, we think we've got all the answers. There's things that they're using it for and loving it for that I did not expect. And the things that I thought,
Wow.
like, oh, this is totally what they're going to use it for, maybe not as universally loved. And so it's just super interesting. Again,
Wow.
like the more we have these conversations and then the more we get feedback from our team members on what's actually useful and
Yeah.
helpful, it helps to refine um, what we design and deliver for them. But like some of them, for example, they're like knowledge based super users. And they're like, look, when I show up, I have 14 tabs open to the articles that I know I'm going to need to reference, and I can just click on tab two and get to my answer even more quickly than if I were to ask the question
Yeah.
to the bot. It's not that the bot's the problem, but I've just figured out my process.
Right.
Like, oh, okay, I didn't realize people were working that way, frankly. But
Yeah.
then those same people would be like, but when I'm looking for verbiage, and especially if I'm in non-voice, so I have a little time to like think about
Yeah.
just the right way to, the bot will give me ideas on how to say it. So it's using both the content in the knowledge base, but can also say like, here's a really customer friendly way to say this thing.
Yeah.
Or if they have to do some math, there's a scenario where they have to like look at some dates and times and figure out the difference between the two to figure out what they do next. And it's in military time or what, right? So they're just like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, they can just copy and paste that entire record history, put it in the bot, and the bot goes, it was three
Yeah.
hours and 17 minutes. And they're like, oh, thank you, bot. So there's things like that I
Yeah.
hadn't anticipated that are working really great so far.
Right, because that eliminates, yeah, I mean, a need for a calculator. And also, I love the verbiage piece because it's kind of the way you might ask, like a coworker, or and especially having a full remote workforce, you don't
Yep.
just like lean over and ask somebody, but saying, how would you say this better? Or what's a word for, yeah, that's exactly, yeah, that's interesting. Do you have any more examples where you're like, I didn't think they would like this part, but this is what they're using it for?
Um, yeah, I mean those are the main ones so far. The most recent question I posed to them after I talked to these other folks, and I was thinking about the maybe some things should be pushed. That's my latest question to them is like, are there things that you think that we should push to you? Are there certain, maybe not everything, not every
Yeah,
single thing that's in knowledge base should we be, pinging you with in real time? But like,
yeah,
what are the things that would be useful? So I think that'll be interesting as I start to get that feedback
yeah,
from them as well to kind of figure out that next iteration. But yeah, it's super fun. And again, I think like it does, it's a reminder though, as smart as we all think that we are, the sooner we can be having these conversations with the team members rather than
yeah,
just making decisions on their behalf about what we think is going to be right for them, it's going to help with the speed of
yeah.
design delivery, how they kind of accept it or don't accept it, all those sorts of
Yeah.
things.
Yeah. Yeah, you're exactly right. And I mean, that's another reason why your agents are so tenured is because you involve them in these decisions. I mean, and if you think about it, we would all want that too. Like if your leadership is going to make decisions for you and they're like, oh, here you go. You had no
Yeah.
say in it, but you're going to have to. So involving whoever is going to be taking part in the decision is always a sure way to speed up adoption and acceptance.
Yep. Absolutely.
So for my last question, and then I want to hear, kind of what you have on your plate or what you'll be doing this year. I love to ask if you could add an honest disclaimer or a warning label to AI that you would never see in a pitch deck or that somebody would never outright come and say, what would that be?
It seems like this should be obvious, but I'm not sure that it is. I think a big disclaimer I'd add is we're operating in a legal and regulatory environment that's still being figured out.
Yeah.
It's like the Wild West, honestly, when it comes to like the legal landscape of AI in America. I don't know about other places, but in the US. And we've got different states doing different things. And
Yeah.
I've asked a bunch of vendors really directly, what are the requirements around consent, disclosure, et cetera, et cetera? And they typically act as if there are none. Oh, you don't have to tell anyone anything. You don't need their consent. You don't need to tell them that it's AI that you're talking to. And the problem is that might be technically true that there's not a law on the books that says that. The problem is that there aren't sufficient laws on the books. And we're
Yeah.
applying laws that were not designed for AI to
Yeah.
AI. And so it's just this gray area. And right now, I think a lot of the legal landscape is being decided by lawsuits. And so I just like
Yeah.
I don't want to learn a lesson by being sued.
Yeah.
And so I just think it's an area where we need to be really thoughtful. It's the Wild West, but if you whether it's internal or you have, you talk to a lawyer that specializes in this area, there are some things that are like pretty clear that if you do these things, you'll be setting yourself up. There's no guarantee you won't get sued because that's just where
Yeah.
we're at. But you might be putting yourself in a position to either not get sued or win that lawsuit and have it dismissed. But,
Yeah.
but if you just take the advice of certain vendors that say, like, you don't have to do anything, you might be in trouble.
Yeah. Yeah. Because exactly, it comes back on you, not the vendor.
Right.
Wow. I like that warning label. I always love that question. Jeremy, I like to give people an opportunity to talk about, are you working on anything? Will you be at any conferences or shows that people can find you at, or what's exciting you?
Yeah. So, in addition to my day job at Sun Country, I also lead the Midwest Contact Center Association, which has Chicago and Minneapolis chapters. And then I also lead the Work from Home Alliance, which, of course, supports remote and hybrid contact center leaders. So much of the success in my career is because I had these amazing people around me, these really smart people around me that made me smart, lifted me up, challenged me, developed me. And so trying to build communities like that where others get that same
Yeah.
opportunity, that same kind of ability to develop and learn from others is super important to me. So that's a big part of my focus. I mean, you can see events that are being hosted at both of those. I've got an in-person conference that I'm putting on from Work from Home Alliance in St. Paul, June 1st and 2nd.
Yeah.
Then we'll also be in Austin, Texas, November 11th and 12th. Outside of that, I'm traveling a lot this year. I'm going to be, I think, at ICMI in October, which is always a
Okay.
great one. But then just doing a ton of traveling. I'm going to be in Guatemala next month for business.
Wow.
My family's going to Yosemite in October. I might be going to Iceland in September. So I am
Oh,
just like
how
jet setting
cool.
this year. I'm going to be exhausted and ready to
Yeah.
just stay home next year.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. That is so exciting. Travel does make the year fly by though. And I mean, yeah, I'll definitely keep an eye out for you at ICMI. I think we'll be there as well. And I will definitely let you know what I hear in regards to like the legal and compliance piece at CCW because, like you said, there's going to be new AI vendors this year, and there will be vendors who were there last year who don't exist anymore or they've been
Yeah.
acquired. So,
Yeah, I
yeah,
actually have several attorneys from Jackson Lewis joining in, I think, both St. Paul and Austin to
yeah,
talk about one, just like hourly labor laws and remote in different states and that sort
yeah,
of thing. But then also there's going to be a privacy and AI focus that they can give you the cheat sheet of like, here's the how not to get
yeah,
sued
yeah,
checklist.
yeah, yeah. Well, thank you so much, Jeremy. Is there anything else on your mind? I've really enjoyed this time, and I'm sure we will have another opportunity to have conversations, and we'll have even more to talk about then.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's been great. I really appreciate the time, Kate.
Thank you so much, and we'll talk soon, Jeremy.